This video is to help you with issues that cropped up in the writing mock with grammar and punctuation. Um, I'd like you to copy these incorrect sentences down, and what we will do eventually is we will talk about what's wrong with them, how to correct them, and then make the correct sentence. If you could write down these three sentences and leave 3, 4, maybe 5 lines in between, so you can write a few notes and the correct sentence. Okay, so the sentences are: walking along the beach, comma, with lots of noise and movement, full stop. I felt nervous as I approached the sea, comma, it was raging and roaring. Wherever I looked, semicolon, lobsters approached me. You need to remember that an independent clause means the same as a simple sentence. It makes sense on its own, and it has a noun and a verb, unless it's a command. This is the first sentence. Walking along the beach with lots of noise and movement. What's the problem? The problem is that there are two dependent clauses. Neither makes sense on its own, and so it's not a sentence. No noun or active verb is there. Walking is the act of walking. For example, walking is my hobby. So here it's a noun as it's a thing. What can we do? We can turn one clause into an independent clause that makes sense alone. Corrected sentence. I'm walking along the beach with lots of noise and movement. We now have a complex sentence with one dependent clause and a correct comma. We've corrected one dependent clause into an independent clause by adding a noun. I am walking along the beach. So this is the second sentence. I felt nervous as I approached the sea, comma, it was raging and roaring. What's the problem? A comma has been used between two independent clauses. They stand alone, they both make sense. This is incorrect. You can't separate sentences, which is what independent clauses are, with commas on their own. What can we do? We can use a semicolon or a full stop or a joining word. Corrected sentence. I felt nervous as I approached the sea, semicolon. It was raging and roaring. Why is it better? We now have a compound sentence with two independent clauses separated by a semicolon, which is correct. Here is the third sentence. Wherever I looked, semicolon, lobsters approached me. What's the problem? A semicolon has been used to mark off a dependent clause, extra information. This should be marked off with a comma. What can we do? Use a comma. Corrected sentence. Wherever I looked, comma, lobsters approached me. As you can see, wherever I looked does not stand alone. Why is this better? We now have extra information, wherever I looked, marked off with a comma, which is correct. So what have we learned? Firstly, make sure sentences have at least one whole independent clause that makes sense alone. Secondly, don't separate two whole sentences that make sense alone with a comma. Use a full stop, a joining word, or a semicolon, or an exclamation mark or question mark if appropriate. And thirdly, mark off extra information that does not make sense alone with a comma.